How to recognize when God is calling you. Hi, guys. I'm Pastor John Davis Lawrence of the New Harvest Community Church, City of God, Leicester, UK. And I'm excited to be here with you to bring to you this short series on the call of God. Is God calling you? Now, I'm a pastor. I'm a senior pastor of the New Harvest Community Church, like I said, right here in the UK. And this is what I do. I have several books, and the Lord has called me into various ministries. And, over some years, I've come to understand that when God is calling you, sometimes you might not realize that actually is Him that's calling you. And I've had so many people approach me and ask me, Pastor, how do I recognize when God is calling me? And in this time, I really do believe that God is calling, but you can miss it. You can really miss it if you do not understand how, when, and why God calls. So that's what I want to go into in short in this first series of recognizing when God is calling you. So let's just jump into. Okay, so the call of God will come to you at a time when you least expect it to. So you're not expecting God to call you at this particular moment in time because maybe you're thinking you're too young, you're too old, you're too involved in stuff, you're not qualified. It will come at a time when you least expect it to. Can you remember when Peter was in the boat? I mean, there was a storm. How could God be calling him during a storm? So sometimes the call of God will come to you when you least expect it to. It will also come to you at a time in your life when you're not expecting him to call you to do what he's calling you to do, because to you, your mind, there are other people that are far, far more qualified to do what it is that you're hearing him calling you to do. How could he be calling me to do this? There are far more people that who could do this far better than I could. So it will call you to do what you least expect it to. The call of God will call you how you least expect him to. So the how you least expect that call to come. It's coming in a way that you didn't expect it to come. It's like, how could he be calling me like this? It can't be him. He called Moses from a burning bush. How could he be calling from a burning bush? But when it caught Moses' attention, the Bible tells me that Moses said, let me turn aside and see this great wonder. This bush is on fire, but it's not being consumed. So clearly God called him in a way that he didn't expect him to. It was like, how is he doing this? How can this be possible? Oftentimes when God calls you like that, it's because he's trying to catch your attention, get you off the road that you're actually on. And the only way that he can do it is with a how, so that you will question, particularly if you're an individual who's quite inquisitive, you're a person who likes to know, then God will use a how. God will also call you where you least expect him to. So, I can remember when my father got called, he was actually on a dance floor. He was at a dance at the time, a party. Some people might call it a rave or whatever you want to call it. But he will call you how and where and to and when. But where you least expect him to is like, God can't be calling me here. This is not clean enough. This is not right. I'm not in the right company. I don't look the right. I don't. And he will call you where you least expect him to. So let's jump to the next one. So how do you recognize the call of God? One way that you can recognize the call of God is that it's always persistent. God's call will always be persistent. It will not stop until you answer. If you jump over to 1 Samuel 3 and 5, it will tell you about God calling Samuel. He doesn't just call him the one time. God will call you till you get it. Right? He will call you until you realize that it's him that's actually calling you. So there's a persistence in God's call. It's not just going to be a one-off thing. He will steadily call you over and over and over. God is a very persistent God. If he wants you, he'll keep on calling you until you answer, here am I, Lord, send me. Let's jump to the next slide. So the call of God, how you recognize it is that it will be heavy. Oftentimes the call of God will be so heavy on you. You're not responding to it. You're not recognizing that it's him that's calling, but each time it will become heavier and heavier and heavier with each passing day. So you'll find that when I say heavier, the promptings will become almost as if it's like it will begin to frustrate you. It's almost like, well, the way that I could respond to this, or show you this, is Jeremiah 20:9, when it says, Jeremiah speaks about not wanting to speak for God anymore, and he said, but if I say I will not mention his word or speak anymore his name, his word is in me. It's in me like fire shut up in my bones, and I am weary from holding it in. Indeed, I cannot. So when the call of God is coming to you, it will be so heavy on you that no matter what you do, you can't run from it. Can you remember Jonah trying to run from the call of God, the assignment of God? And it found him. It found him in the form of a whale. All right. It don't matter where you go. If God wants you and he's calling you, you better answer. Can you remember Saul? Saul on the road to Damascus, Saul, who then became Paul. Okay. Knocked him off his horse. Just knocked him down. I don't know whether it was a horse, but it knocked him down. And, he heard a voice, and he saw a light, a great light. That's the call of God. God will call you, and he won't let up until you let up. Let's go to the next slide. So the problems, God's call will call you to solve something. God, like I said, Isaiah 61 speaks about the Spirit of the Lord being upon me because he hath anointed me. So the call of God comes to you for a reason, for a purpose, because he hath anointed me too. So the call of God doesn't just come to you just because he's just calling you, just for calling you sake. No, he will call you to solve something. There will be something that he has called you to do. When he called Moses, he called him to send him down to Pharaoh. When he called Saul, he called Saul for a specific purpose, and that was for the Gentiles. When he called Joseph up out of the prison, that was ultimately to solve what was going to become a potential famine for Israel, and they would have starved in that famine had Joseph not responded to that call. So Pharaoh said to Joseph, and also obviously he called him and he solved Pharaoh's problem, which was a dream. Pharaoh said to Joseph, I had a dream and no one can interpret it, but I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it. So God will call you to something. Now, the call doesn't necessarily always mean initially that you are ready for the something that he is calling you to. Nonetheless, the call is the start point to where he's taken you to. So it's so important that you respond to that call. Okay? The call will shift you. All right? It will shift you socially. It will shift you spiritually, emotionally, and psychologically. A call of God will create a shift in your life. It will often shift you in those 4 areas that I've just spoken to you about. He will shift you socially. So can you remember Abraham? Abraham had to get up out of his country from his father's household to a land God said that he would show him. All right. So it moved him socially. His social landscape changed. It will shift you spiritually. The landscape of your spiritual life will change. You have to go up a level. Why? Because to respond to a call of God, it takes another level of faith. So it will shift you from where you are spiritually on one level, and it will move you to another level. It will shift you emotionally. On an emotional level, all of your emotions will be involved in this. So maybe where you were a doubter and you were somebody who was always afraid, or you were somebody that was always second guessing yourself. The word tells me that a double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. But When the call of God comes to you and you respond to it, it will shift you emotionally and psychologically. Your psyche will begin to change. Your mindset, your paradigm, your outlook, your perspective, the way you look at things, the way you think about things, your psyche will change. Your thinking will change. Why? Because in order for you to respond to the call of God, you've got to begin to embrace the mind of God. So that's the call of God. And I'm Pastor Dawn Davis Lawrence, and I hope you enjoyed this. There will be some more coming, so listen out for the other series that are coming. Thank you so much for joining. If you have any questions, please put them in the little bits below where you can, reply and write comments. Put your comments in. And put your questions in there, and click and share this if you like it, and like it if you like it, share it if you like it. More to come. All right, be blessed, stay safe, stay sensible, and stay strong. God bless you.